Okay. All right. I think I've got audio now. I apologize. The program was not alerting. It was not showing that my audio was muted until I actually started the stream. That's fun. So you can hear me now. So let me just start my spiel over again. I know that everyone is ready to uh, get out of this and to get back to normal. And, it's everybody's tired. It was fun at first, right? But everybody's tired of it. And let's just get back to our normal lives and get back to everything we enjoy. Unfortunately, though, as you can see on the radar behind me, we still have some of this precipitation here. One thing that came up earlier in these questions was questions about whether or not all of this is reaching the ground, and it very well may not be. Some of this you're seeing may not necessarily be reaching the ground, but I can guarantee you these darker pinks definitely reaching the ground, and that's heavier precipitation. So if we put this into motion here, I mean, you can see that it's increasing, and it's kind of been in waves. We've seen wave after wave of this stuff come through. What's different right now is the temperatures are dropping. Outside right now, I think, I've got 30 degrees outside of here right now, and that is down a couple of degrees from earlier today. Earlier, I also checked the temperature of the surface, the actual roadway, and I mean, we were talking 40, 41 degrees. That has since dropped as well. So when we lose that daytime heating, the radiating heat that was coming down through a relatively thin layer of cloud, that's why we were warming up a little earlier than expected, but that's all gone now. We don't have that anymore. So at this point, we are looking at dropping temperatures in the air, on the ground, on those roadways, and we will be in the upper 20s overnight tonight. So we've got plenty of all of this mess that melted on the streets, all going to refreeze, all going to be solid ice. And some of the city streets have kind of dried up a little bit, but here it is. We've got more of this precipitation that's going to fall and will cause more issues for our area. Let's kind of get a broader view outside of just the kind of the South Metro area, as I call it. So you see that Ellis County is kind of in this hole right now. We do have this wave that's moving in, and yes, we do have more off to the southwest, excuse me. And it will be moving on to the northeast. We will get more of this, and I want to show you kind of a broader view. If I can pull up let's pull up the multi-radar here, multi-radar screen. Let's put that on winter weather mode here. And you can see that we have quite a bit that's still going to come through. But if we put this into motion here, let me kind of adjust this so that we can get the best picture possible of what's happening. What you're going to notice once that loads is, yes, we still have plenty of this moving in, but you'll notice that over to the southwest, farther over towards Alpine and the border of Mexico here, you'll see that we have some green there. And eventually, the parent storm, the system that is bringing all of this to us, in fact, let's kind of do a broader view here. You can see, just barely, you can kind of see the spin here. This will continue to move off to the east, and the parent storm will finally pass over our area, get east of us, get all of this out of here. That will be tomorrow. And as it does, we will see temperatures rising in our area, and we will get above freezing. The question, though, is exactly what time are we going to get above freezing? There are some thinking we'll be above freezing by 6, 7 a.m., according to some of their forecasts that I've seen out there. I don't think it's going to be that great. I think that we get above freezing probably somewhere between 10 and 12 o'clock tomorrow, and several schools have already said that they're canceled. I was going to try to get a ticker here on the bottom of the screen, but it wasn't working for whatever reason. But we will see warmer temperatures tomorrow. We will get above freezing. It doesn't take much increase to start melting, especially in the daytime, to start melting the roadways. So, 10, 11 o'clock tomorrow, we could easily have pretty clear roadways, and then after that, we'll start melting everything else. But before that point, though, we will get more of this precipitation, and we will be below freezing overnight tonight before we can really improve things. So I just want to give you just a few kind of notes here, and let me get rid of this fancy little thing I did there. still working on kind of adjusting some things for the streams here. This is kind of my excuse me, been a long day, experimental period before spring comes to do all the fun new bells and whistles. But here's the lows tonight. So we're in the upper 20s. It's going to be cold. And the further southwest you get, further southeast, this is going to be a long stream, but we'll make it. Further to the southeast here, you do get warmer, and that freezing line is further down south of Corsicana, and that will be lifting westward as that system comes through and we will warm up. But for tonight, we will get down to these temperatures, and we could, again, be below freezing until 9, 10 a.m., if not a little later, tomorrow morning. And then I want to make sure that you are also reminded here of the fact that we do have these active alerts. We do have an ice storm warning. I don't believe there's been any change to this. This ice storm warning that continues until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, and then hold on, before we get there, and then we do have this winter storm warning that has been in effect for what seems like forever, including Ellis, Navarro, and Hill counties here until 9 a.m. tomorrow as well. So that's kind of been the time that the National Weather Service has been working with as far as when they expect this stuff to start alleviating. I want to make note, though, that just because we'll be above freezing doesn't mean the rain's going to stop. It's still going to be a rainy, gross day tomorrow. We don't really get rid of this until Friday, okay? So just bear in mind that we will be above freezing, but that just means it's going to be a cold rain. It's going to go from dangerously icy to just terribly gross. That's kind of what we're going to be looking at for tomorrow. So I just want to give you a quick look at the forecast. Obviously today, I think we got up to 33 degrees in some parts of Ellis County and some parts of probably Navarro County for sure. I think the Corsicana area may have gotten to 33, maybe 34 down there. It was warmer. At one point, the radar was estimating just rain there. Unfortunately, it didn't last long, and they too, you guys in Corsicana and in that surrounding area, Blooming Grove, Dawson down there, Kearns, you all will be below freezing again. So even though you're closer to that freezing point and just a tad warmer, it will still be freezing down that area. So keep that in mind. Tomorrow we do transition. You do see it here, starting out with that frozen precipitation, moving over to rain. I do have us in the mid 30s by tomorrow afternoon. I think that's realistic. But the north wind still continues. And then, yes, tomorrow night we do get back down to the upper 20s. I think upper 20s to around 30. I don't think we get quite as cold. And I don't know that there will be as much to refreeze. There's a little bit of a question on Friday of how much moisture will be on the ground Thursday night into Friday, and how warm will we get to possibly keep the roads above freezing if we do get below freezing in the air. There's still some questions, folks. That's the problem with predicting the weather in these winter weather events, is you can have 1 or 2 degrees that can make all the difference in these situations. Worst case scenario, we could have some ice left over early Friday morning. I don't know that it will affect school. I think at the very most, we might look at a 2-hour delay in some places if they think that there's enough of this moisture left over that's frozen for Friday morning. But Friday, hey, we're in the mid-40s. So I do think that we will very quickly get above freezing if we are able to get some ice melted or some ice refroze Thursday night into Friday morning. But from there, Friday night, I think Friday, everything clears out. Friday night, we do have a light freeze. And then Sunday, Monday, hey, everything looks great. We're in the 60s, 60 degrees Sunday, 65 Monday. And then Tuesday, there's some question, there's some kind of debate going on. Some folks have us pretty warm on Tuesday with a later cold front. Some have an earlier cold front and possibly some wintry precipitation there. I'm gaining on a later front, kind of later in the day, that we might reach the 60s and then drop from there probably later in the day and then have a cooler day on Wednesday. That's 7 days away. That forecast has plenty of time to change and refine. I don't expect that to be anything that's going to change school plans or anything like that. So don't worry about that too much. What we've got right in front of us is enough to focus on, where, again, tomorrow we do have more wintry precipitation in the morning, but we do transition over to more wet precipitation going forward from there. So I want to make sure to take some time here to maybe address some questions and that kind of thing. We'll get back to the local radar here and just kind of get in our default mode. And I understand too that we're ready for the kiddos to go back to school. I was a little bit surprised that Ellis County Schools announced so quickly that they were going to be canceling school tomorrow. You know, it's not unheard of that would happen. And I think, like I say, I think they're gaming on some of the uncertainty of exactly when we're going to be above freezing tomorrow, because it's very possible that it could be 11 o'clock or noon. If you're opening school at 10, you still have buses running a little earlier than that. So there's some uncertainty about exactly when those roads will be passable and safe for all of those kids. So it may just be that the fear of the unknown was what prompted them to go ahead and just cancel school tomorrow. They've got winter days and weather days to burn. Might as well at this point. It's easier to close school another day after you've been closed than to go over that hump, right? Make that first closed day. So I think that they just wanted to tack on just one more just to make sure everything kind of clears out. So I'll look to see, let me get back in the comments here, see if there's any of your questions that I can help with. Man, a lot of comments. And I want to make sure I'm forgetting a huge rule that somebody gave me. If you will, I meant to mention this before. If you will like the stream, share the stream, all that good stuff, all that engagement helps. We're getting closer to spring when you and I'm sure will be spending quite a lot of time together. And tonight, I just wanted to take the opportunity to kind of address these things because I know there was a lot of questions about, for one, today, everything was melting. People were thinking, why is it melting when it's below freezing? And is this the end? Are we done? I didn't want everyone to get overconfident for tomorrow morning. I wanted you to understand that this precipitation is still coming. It still will be below freezing. It will still be dangerous, absolutely, for sure. But, you know, it kind of threw me for a loop as well. And the National Weather Service also kind of had to look into this too. So, you know, about noon today, we were all kind of scratching our heads going, okay, what's happening here? And there's warm air aloft still. And there's, you know, we're starting to melt the streets, all this kind of stuff. You know, there's a lot that can go into figuring out what's happening with these winter events. I will take predicting a severe weather event over trying to figure out what the winter weather is doing any day of the week. So you can have small variations and factors that can really make a big change in the spring as well. Dry lines, instability, cape, these kind of things. Man, when it comes to winter weather, it's just all over the place. Few things make sense. And I mean, we had, you know, snow happening when the conditions were calling for, you know, sleet and freezing rain. Texas doesn't follow the rules. We kind of know that. And especially in the winter, wacky things happen all the time. So I just want to, let's see what questions I can answer here. And yeah, I went all the way back to all the non-audio comments there. So, okay, so got the audio going. And if you want to add those questions into the comment section, I'm happy to answer those. Let me scroll down. Everybody letting me know that you can hear me, that kind of thing. Man, I may have to scroll for a while to get past that. And okay. So let me first, and I know that we've got a question about, you know, what is the weather looking like in a certain place? I've got to drive there, that kind of thing. Let me first say that I am not going to tell you what to do travel-wise. Specifically, I'm going to tell you what I think the weather's going to do. It's your decision to make sure to figure out what your travel plans are. I'm not going to be liable for telling you, hey, leave at this time and you're good and, you know, things go sour. So you're asking about 3 p.m. By 3 o'clock, I think we're above freezing in most of the area. Now, I haven't looked into Dallas County. I don't know exactly what the timeline is there, but I can tell you that here in Ellis County, I think by 3 o'clock, I think we've got melting going on everywhere. I think it's gross and slushy and yuck out there. I don't know in Collin County and Dallas County, you're going to be going through Dallas County to get to Plano and Collin County. I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like, but in this area, these 4 counties, we will be pretty warm by that point. And so roads should be passable. Now, let me qualify that too by saying that a lot of water on a roadway can still be dangerous. It can still be slick, it can still be, so don't take this as an opportunity as soon as we go above freezing to just go wild. It's still not a good idea to drive like a normal day, right? It's still water, it's still wet, it's still not a good idea to, sling around the roadways, but be smart. And I think overall, I think 3 o'clock, I think we're going to see a dramatic improvement in terms of the roads, but I can't guarantee that for sure, again, because I'm not exactly sure what the timeline is as far as warming up for the inner Dallas Fort Worth area. Let me see what other questions we might have here. Would you recommend going to work tonight from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. From Blooming Grove to Ennis? So what I can tell you on that is that tonight, and it's almost 8 o'clock now, by the time we get to 10 o'clock, things are going to be freezing up. And by 6 a.m., I think things are still cold. So the pro on that is that you're going to be going to a place and you'll be there throughout most of that frozen period. The negative is that when you're going there and coming back, odds are the frozen conditions will still be there. So that's what I'm going to tell you. Again, I'm not going to recommend yes or no, but I can tell you that it's very possible we will be looking at frozen conditions still at that point in those areas. And let's see what other questions we've got. We'll all be back to normal Friday morning. So yes and no, we will be quite a bit warmer Friday, but the question is we still will be getting down to 29, 30 degrees Thursday night. That's the forecast right now. That could change. If we can warm up a little more Thursday, tomorrow, that could mean higher lows going into Friday morning. So Friday morning is still a little bit of a mystery right now. Still trying to get that refined to better understand exactly how much of that moisture that's on the ground might freeze still. So I would say let's check on that Thursday night, tomorrow night. We'll have a better idea maybe of what we're looking at Friday morning, but it's still a little bit uncertain at that point. I think that's all the questions we have now. If you have other questions, feel free to, yeah. So the question was, will the roads be worse tomorrow morning than they have been the last couple of mornings? That's hard to say. For one, it's hard to even really say anything county-wide. Midlothian was hit significantly harder than perhaps Waxahachie or Ennis. Red Oak was hit pretty hard. Midlothian was a totally different world from Waxahachie, and that can happen in these winter events. We can have an event where it just seems like, it seems like it's two totally different worlds, and they're, 10, 20 miles apart. My concern with the roads tomorrow, and this is kind of a discussion about freezing rain as well. You have sleet, and sleet can accumulate, but sleet's little pellets that pile up. Freezing rain is rain that hits the ground, spreads out, and freezes. That's the most efficient ice you can possibly have. My concern is that we have some of this stuff that's been melting today, and when it melts, it spreads out. Okay, so all the ice that was pushed to the center of the roadway can now kind of start to spread outward as it's been melting, right? And then we're going to have more freezing rain overnight tonight. So I don't know what to say in terms of whether it's going to be worse than what we've seen the last morning or two. But I will say that I am concerned about the efficiency of the freezing tonight, that we could see it be a little more widespread maybe on the roads than we have seen. So I'm not sure if it'll be worse per se, but maybe more efficient, which I guess could be worse in some terms than what we have seen. Nathan asking if we're going to see any snow. I doubt it. See, here's the funny thing: the snow that we got, what was that? 2 days ago? Yesterday? 2 days ago? It's all a blur to me now. I'm going to need to sleep for a couple of days to get through all of this to catch up on all the sleep I've missed. But the interesting thing about it was that when you have warm air aloft, and this is if you were in one of my school discussions recently, if any of the kids are watching, let me know. I've actually heard a few parents saying that their kids have been teaching the parents how this stuff works, which is awesome. And by the way, I hate that I'm not going to be able to make it to Shackleford tomorrow. I'm looking forward to getting that rescheduled. But what happens with sleet and freezing rain is you have warm air aloft, but you have freezing air right at the surface. So that freezing rain, when it's coming down, it's kind of already freezing by the time it's getting close to the surface. And then by the time it hits the ground, it just, it just freezes almost on contact. And then sleet, everything starts out as ice crystals, kind of as snow in the clouds, because it's so cold at those higher levels. Then it's going to drop through and it warms up and melts in that warm layer of air aloft. But then it keeps going, and that's thousands of feet in the air. But then it keeps going, it gets below that air to the cold air that has moved in under it. Remember, heat rises, well, the cold air moves under it, it refreezes, that's when you get your sleet and your grapple pellets and that kind of thing. Normally, you'd have to get all of that whole column of air frozen before you get snow. But there's always an exception to the rule, right? But the thing is, we were getting very ragged, kind of falling apart, very messy, not very pretty snowflakes, but they were snowflakes. I know for a fact they were not grapple, they were not sleet, they were just weird kind of snowflakes. And so what happened was the temperature was so cold below that it actually refroze the snow so efficiently that it became basically rip-off snow, if you can believe it. So, it was one of those things that was completely an exception to the rule. We saw what are being called now the ice needles that fell in Midlothian. I'm not sure we completely have explained that at this point. It's still one of those kind of weird things. Even Reed Timmer shared that on Twitter and was talking about how interesting that was. So we've seen a lot of really weird stuff happen with this winter storm. This will be one I'm studying for a while because there was just some weird things and odd things that happened. So many exceptions to the rules that I've always known in terms of weather. Let me see if there's any other questions. We've gotten several messages here. Okay. Let's see. Ice is slippery. Yeah. And getting reports of ice already out there. And I'm hearing Abby from Long Branch Elementary says hello. Abby, good to have you on the stream. I hope you've seen some of the things that you learned in that presentation happen, and that you're kind of able to maybe better understand some of the things that have been going on the last couple of days because of those lessons. That's really, really cool that you're doing this. Okay, and Amanda, you're asking, where's the freezing rain on the radar? Radar does great things, but in the winter, it's very, very tough. Any of this could be freezing rain or sleet. I can tell you, just from my understanding of the current situation, the majority of this is going to be freezing rain. These darker pockets here, you could get some sleet where it's a little heavier. You could get some sleet involved in those heavier pockets, but most of this, I think, is freezing rain. But it's very hard to differentiate between one or the other on radar. So it's really, if there was any confirmed snow or anything that the radar thought was snow, that would be blue. But when you're getting the pink, that pretty much means freezing rain, sleet, or just kind of a mix. So it's hard to really differentiate between the two as far as the radar is concerned, because the radar just sees precipitation. That's really all the radar sees, but then it factors in the temperature and just kind of makes a guess at what's out there. So it's really hard to differentiate between those two. Ice spikes, ice needles, whatever words you want to put to it. Cottage cheese, as the DFW scanners were saying, it was grated cheese or cottage, that kind of thing. It was really funny. Some of the guesses you guys came up with. Did my little one like the cold? We've had him inside. He's kind of had a little bit of a cold, so we didn't want to take him out and show him too much. Plus, there's no fun stuff. There's no snow, right? So there's really nothing for him to see. So we've kept him pretty well insulated during this time. So that's all the questions I'm seeing here. And I also want to make a note that, I've tried to kind of cover some other areas here too. During every stream I have, I know Navarro County always makes a big deal about trying to stay on the stream. I've got people in Hill County and Johnson County as well. So, I've tried to kind of include everybody, especially on the closures. All the school districts, I've tried to include those. I've still got some, I think, to add. So if that list is incomplete, give me some time. I'm still going to be catching up on some of the things that have come in. But I do love covering these areas because, hey, we're all in this together. And even though Ellis County is generally been my focus over the last 7 years, these areas, not only does pretty much everything that affects these areas affect Ellis County, but I know that these areas have some challenges as far as media coverage as well. So it's been great to cover these areas, and I will definitely be taking that into consideration as we get into the spring as well. In fact, in the comment section, if you want to kind of let me know where you're watching from, that would be another fun way to kind of get an idea of what's going on viewer-wise, where you're watching from, where you're viewing from. Go ahead and let me know. I know David Hatley is watching. I know you're in Rice. I will actually be in Rice in a few weeks doing a presentation there for the school district there. I have really, really loved doing the school presentations. I've got 12, 13 more schools to go to, I think, before this thing is wrapped up. And I've got more schools coming by the day. So it has been a real pleasure to do that. So let's see, we got Corsicana, Ennis, Rice, Waxahachie, Red Oak, Irving. Let's see, Kearns, awesome. Waxahachie, Ennis, Red Oak, Forreston there, Rice, 1446 and I-35. That's actually where I grew up, right there on Compton Lane. So really cool that you're watching there. And Ovilla, Bristol, Rocket. Love those areas. Love the smaller towns here. Midlothian. Let's see. I can't. Looks like Ferris there. Maypearl. Maypearl, you're a teacher in Venus. Surely these kids will head back to school on Friday. I would imagine the kids will be in school in some capacity on Friday, unless the administrators decide just to make a week of it. That's not my call. But I can tell you that on Friday, I think the only thing that could be different on Friday is possibly a 2-hour delay if they decide that there's enough moisture that's frozen from the night before. But that's a big if, because Thursday we could be able to melt away and evaporate enough of that overnight. We may not have a problem, but still a big question. These winter weather situations, sometimes we got to take them hour by hour, much less day by day, going from there. So we got Waxahachie, Midlothian, Forreston, Milford there, Rager Springs, Sand Lake, 35 and 287. Rocket, lots of, just all over the place. And I love hearing these smaller towns that are involved, but just keep in mind too, this is Ellis County weather, but I do generally keep an eye on these areas around here too. So we've had a radar update. I just want to point out a couple more things. Okay, and Janice, you're asking what's the weather going to be like tomorrow. We'll go through the forecast one more time before we wrap this thing up. But it does look like we may have a little bit of a break here. Obviously, some rain still going on in Hillsborough here. Looks like we may have a break after that moves through. But we're still going to see these waves, and these things are going to be coming in as the temperatures drop. I've got 30 degrees right here at my location. That's a degree or two cooler than it was earlier. The roads are definitely getting cooler. I've been checking with a little infrared thermometer to see what the roads are doing. The road out here, which has been very warm today, we're talking 40s, low 40s, does continue to get colder. So as we've lost the daytime heating, the sun is no longer warming those streets. Those will start to get closer and closer to that air temperature and freezing for sure. Any change of hail or just freezing rain. So the hail, we're not looking at the thunderstorms or the thunder sleets that we were a couple of days ago. We're not looking at those conditions But we will be looking at some heavier pockets, but I don't expect hail. The reason you sometimes get hail a little bit easier in the winter is obviously hail is that updraft in a storm, and we've had plenty of lift with this system, especially with that disturbance a couple days ago. It gets carried up and then drops and then up and then drops, and it gets carried up into the frozen, below freezing parts of the cloud, and it'll kind of bounce around there. The updraft will just keep carrying it up there. Depending on how strong the updraft is, it can carry a pretty heavy piece of hail up and down. That's why you have the rings. Obviously, in the winter, it's a colder storm, so it's a little easier to get that hail. But I don't think we're going to be looking at any hail for the rest of this point. But it will be lighter. We won't have the lift, and we won't have the convection and that we had before, so I don't think we're going to be looking at any kind of claps of thunder or hail involved with any of this. David, you're saying you don't mind the cold, you can live without the ice. Yeah, the ice has definitely made headaches for everybody. I looked at an image of 35 Stemmons up in Dallas where people were trying to push their cars, and it was just a nightmare. You're going right there past what used to be Reunion Arena there. Not a good time. And I'm glad that most of Ellis County at least didn't quite get that bad. But like I mentioned, Midlothian got hit pretty hard with all of that. So I want to take the opportunity just one more time we'll go over and go back and show you the forecast, because I do want to make sure that the folks that may have just joined in get a chance to see that here. So let me go ahead and just adjust this, and then we'll talk about the forecast. So here's what we have. Again, today it's done. We did get up to 33 degrees, especially in southern Ellis County, over in Navarro County there. Tomorrow, we are looking at highs in the mid-30s. I do think that we will get to the mid-30s tomorrow, and we will probably cross the freezing line on the upswing around 10 a.m. to noon, somewhere in that area. Of course, most of the schools have already closed. Some of those Navarro County schools, I think, are the ones that are looking at a 2-hour delay. So Corsicana, Blooming Grove, Rice, I think Currens over there, I think those are the areas that are looking at a 2-hour delay. Ellis County has decided to close. I think Johnson and Hill County have as well. But Navarro County has been a little bit warmer throughout this period. Overnight tomorrow night, it is a question, how much moisture will we have on the ground when we get back to the upper 20s tomorrow night? How much could we possibly, how much could we maybe refreeze rather and cause travel issues for Friday morning? Doesn't look like much, but again, can't be too certain. So we will have to take a look at that tomorrow night and get a better idea of that. Friday, we warm up quite a bit. We're in the mid 40s. Saturday, hey, we're in the 50s, and then we're in the 60s for the beginning of next week, but we have that next cold front coming in Tuesday. This does not look as dramatic as what we're looking at right now. It looks like there is some debate as to what kind of timing we're looking at on the front. If the front comes in a little earlier, that'll probably hold our temperatures in the 40s. And we could look at some colder precipitation with that. There's some schools of thought that are kind of leaning that way. I'm leaning towards a later front passage, but it's 7 days out. That could easily change multiple ways. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go forward. But the main thing tomorrow, we do transition from that freezing precipitation over to regular rain, again, probably after 10 a.m. to noon, somewhere in that window. And then we could see a little bit of that moisture refreeze for Thursday morning. So we'll go back to the radar here just to kind of wrap things up and get one last look at where things stand. And, I have to control all this by myself, so I hope you give me just a quick. Okay, so Rice is out tomorrow. I'm getting an update here, and you can't trust my memory because you go to elliscountyweather.com/closures. That's where you can see all of that, and you'll see how many closures I've been trying to keep up with. It's a lot. It is. It is all over the place. Absolutely. It's been crazy. But I appreciate the update there on that. I just can't get this banner to come up there. There it is. Okay, cool. New banner up here. Hope you love it. Again, as I mentioned before, this is kind of my experimental period, kind of my off season before spring to kind of get things in order. So just, enjoy the awkward pauses there as I work through some of this. What is my Groundhog Day prediction? I'm having a hard enough time with this winter storm. I am not that brave. I don't know what Punxsutawney Phil is going to see. I don't know what the forecast is there where he's going to be. So that'll kind of determine if it's sunny there or if it's cloudy. That will determine if he sees his shadow. I think a lot of that is theatrics now anyway, so I'm really not sure what they're going to say is going to happen there. But I just know that if you watch the movie Groundhog Day, that's how I felt the last couple of days. It seems like we're just dealing with this stuff over and over and over again. And it's just not just unending. So just make sure you remember, we do have the ice storm warning that includes Johnson County that is effective until 9 a.m. tomorrow. And then until 9 a.m. tomorrow, we also have the winter storm warning that does include Navarro, Hill, and Johnson counties here. So just keep in mind, you folks in Navarro County, you will be on the warmer side tomorrow, and you will probably go above freezing earlier than anyone else. And that's why Corsicana and those areas have opted for a 2-hour delay. I'm hearing that Rice here has decided to ultimately lean towards being out all day. That's probably because they're closer to Ellis County where they've closed all day, probably influenced by Ennis's decision. But tomorrow morning, just keep in mind that we will have refrozen most, if not all, of what's on the roads. So you need to be careful out there. I ask you to please be careful. I was out driving a little bit ago, and the roads are fine as of about half an hour ago. But temperatures are dropping. We are getting pretty close to dropping below 30 here. The roads are definitely getting colder because they were depending on that daylight to warm up. So we'll check the comments just one last time to see if there is anything more to see what I do a better job than most people in northern Michigan. I'm not sure I would take on that mantle because I imagine those folks probably handle winter weather a whole lot better. In fact, I was talking to Matt earlier today. He was saying that he hears from people from other states that are just like, this is crazy. In fact, I saw a video recently of someone from Michigan who was saying, I will never make fun of Texans for their winter weather ever again because it drops so quickly and so frequently and it's so up and down, it's impossible to acclimate to it. Up north, winter's a season. Here, winter's a couple of days, right? Hopefully, we had that week and a half a couple of years ago, but at this point, it just, it's just drops and then it's really uncomfortable and you can't get used to it. So, hey, we have all kinds of things here in Texas and we're all just a little bit braver for putting up with that, having to adjust to all of that. You do a better job than most guys in Dallas. Well, thank you so much. Well, let me say this. The guys in Dallas cover Dallas, right? They're going to focus north where the population centers are. That's why I'm here. I know that this area, this whole area here, I mean, Ellis, Johnson, Hill, Navarro, all four of these counties really have a hard time getting coverage. And just the success in Ellis County at this point, I can only imagine when Hill and Navarro counties are stuck in between two medium markets, you're on the map in Waco. But my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the Waco, you guys don't get the Waco stations. I think in, way further down, maybe in the Hubbard area or further south, you might get some of the Waco stations, but the Dallas stations don't cover you much. The Waco stations, you don't get those frequencies. So, it's just, so that's why I wanted to go ahead and include you guys because I knew this stuff would be coming in from the Southwest and including all of you. So I wanted to make sure that you guys had an eye on the storm as well. So thank you so much for joining me. I think that's all the questions that we've got for tonight. I appreciate all of the, positive, the kind words and everything. If you want to support me and the work that I do, we're running up to spring. So we're going to be rolling out some things to get ready for spring coverage here in the next month or so. If you want to support me, the links are there in the description. So thank you so much for watching. I will have more updates on this. I'm going to be keeping an eye on everything. I'll be up early in the morning to bring you all of this coverage tomorrow. Again, keep in mind, we will refreeze tonight, but tomorrow morning, somewhere between maybe 10 a.m. and noon, we will cross up above freezing and stay there at least for the rest of the day. Thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful night. Stay warm and stay safe.